Hello and welcome to Lantern Lane Stories. Tonight's story is Young Galileo and the Cathedral Lamp. Hello, little one. Tuck the blanket under your chin and rest your head. Tonight we are going to travel to Italy to a small old town called Pisa. Pisa sits beside a slow river named the Arno. The river slips past stone bridges, quiet as a cat. In the middle of the town stands a famous tower. It is round and white, and it leans, just a little, as if it is sleepy too. Right beside the tower stands a great cathedral with a high marble roof that glows pale in the moonlight. Hundreds of years ago, inside that cathedral, a teenager looked up at the wrong moment in just the right place. What he saw, a giant lamp, swinging on a long bronze chain, would later change the clocks of the whole world. His name was Galileo Galilei. Tonight we will meet him, first as a tiny boy, and then as a sleepy daydreamer of 17. Galileo was born in Pisa on a winter day in 1564. His father was called Vincenzo, and Vincenzo loved music more than almost anything in the world. Vincenzo played a curly wooden instrument called the lute. It looked a little like a pear with strings. When little Galileo could barely walk, he would crawl across the warm tile floor toward the music. He liked to press his cheek against the round belly of the lute just to feel it hum. Goodness, his mother would laugh, lifting him gently away. This child will go deaf before he is 3. But Galileo only grinned. To him, music was not just pretty noise, it was a puzzle. When his father tightened a string, the note climbed higher. When he loosened it, the note slid lower. "Father," young Galileo asked one evening, "why do tight strings sing high?" "Because, my boy," Vincenzo said with a smile, "the world keeps secrets in numbers. Even music is just numbers in a pretty dress." Galileo's eyes went wide. He decided right there to chase those numbers, wherever they tried to hide. After that, he counted everything. He counted the cobblestones from his door to the bakery. He counted how many sips it took to drink a cup of milk. He counted the seconds between a flash of lightning and the rumble of thunder. He counted the petals on every daisy in the garden. He kept a little notebook in his pocket. Inside, he drew water wheels, beehives, and the spokes of carriage wheels. When he was a little older, his family moved to Florence, a bigger city further up the river. There, his teachers said he was clever, but a daydreamer. He stared out windows. He drew tiny gears in the margins of his books. "That child sees pictures the rest of us miss," one teacher whispered to another. But the teachers were not worried. He was kind and curious and gentle. He just had a very busy little mind. The years drifted by like leaves on the Arno River. Galileo grew tall, with curly hair and bright, dark eyes. When he was 17, his father sat him down at the kitchen table. "Galileo, you should become a doctor," Vincenzo said firmly. "Doctors earn good money. Musicians, well, do not." Galileo wrinkled his nose, but he loved his father very much. So in 1581, he traveled back to his birth city. He went to study medicine at the famous University of Pisa. He shared a small room near the university. The window looked out at red-tiled rooftops and pigeons that strutted like tiny generals. He read thick old books about bones and herbs. He listened to long, dusty lectures on which berries cured what ache. But inside his head, his thoughts kept drifting towards circles and clocks and stars. Sometimes he sneaked into the math classes down the hall. Those numbers felt like old friends from his counting days. On winter nights, frost made tiny stars on his window. Galileo traced them with a fingertip and wondered why each shape was different. One Sunday morning in early spring, the cathedral bells rang across the rooftops. Bong, bong, bong. Galileo wrapped his wool cloak around his shoulders and stepped into the cool air. The street smelled of warm bread and damp stone. A baker waved through a steamy window. A cat watched him from a doorway, blinking slow, sleepy blinks. He climbed the wide cathedral steps and slipped inside. The cathedral was huge. Sunlight poured through tall windows in colored stripes, red, gold, deep blue. Candles burned in iron stands, and the air smelled of beeswax and old, soft incense. The marble floor was so smooth that footsteps barely made a sound. Galileo sat on a wooden bench near the back. He folded his hands politely. He tried very hard to listen to the prayers. But well, his eyes drifted upward. They almost always did. High above the marble floor, on a long bronze chain, hung an enormous lamp. It was as wide as a cartwheel, and it shone a soft honey color. Someone had just trimmed its wicks and the chain was still gently swaying. Side and side and side. Sunlight from the colored windows slid slowly across the floor. The shadow of the chain inched along too, like a long, thin finger. Galileo forgot all about the prayers. He watched the lamp the way a kitten watches a moth. At first, the lamp swept across a wide path, almost reaching the stone columns on either side. Then the swings grew smaller, smaller, smaller still, and that was when he noticed something very, very strange. Each swing seemed to take exactly the same amount of time. That cannot be right, Galileo whispered to himself. A bigger swing must take longer. It has so much farther to go. But the more he watched, the surer he was. The big sweep took the same amount of time as the tiny wobble. He needed to measure it carefully. But he had no pocket watch. Pocket watches barely existed yet. Then a small, marvelous idea floated into his head. He pressed 2 fingers gently to the inside of his wrist. There, under his skin, he felt the soft tap of his own pulse. Bup-bup, bup-bup, bup-bup. His heart beat steadily, like a tiny patient drummer who never grew tired. He counted his pulse as the great lamp swung. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the lamp finished its arc. Then he counted the very next swing, a smaller one. 1, 2, 3, 4, and again exactly the same. Galileo's eyes went wide. "It is true," he whispered. His own breath made a tiny fog in the cool air. "It is really, truly true." He pressed his hand against his mouth so he wouldn't laugh out loud in the quiet church. Right above everyone's heads, swinging in plain sight, was a hidden clock, and nobody else had ever bothered to look up. After the service ended, Galileo hurried home through the gray afternoon streets. His thoughts buzzed like a hive of friendly bees. Back in his small room, he pulled out a sheet of rough paper. He sketched a hanging weight on a string. He drew a small arrow showing how it swayed. Underneath, in careful black ink, he wrote just 4 little words: "Time hides in swinging." He folded the paper and tucked it into a wooden box. He would think about it for many, many years. When Galileo grew older, he tied weights to long strings and let them swing in his quiet workshop. He counted and counted and counted some more. Every pendulum kept its steady beat, just like the cathedral lamp had. He even sketched a design for a clock with a swinging pendulum inside. It was one of the very first ideas of its kind. When his eyes grew tired in old age, his son helped finish the drawing for him. Galileo also became a famous teacher and scientist. He built a telescope out of glass and a tube of leather, all by himself. Through it, he saw mountains and round craters on the moon. He saw 4 tiny dots dancing around the planet Jupiter. He had found Jupiter's moons, and nobody had ever seen them before. He showed people that the Earth travels around the sun, not the other way around. And because of his work on the swinging lamp, clockmakers all over Italy had a beautiful new idea. They began to put little pendulums inside their clocks. Suddenly, clocks could tick steadily, day after day, year after year. Sailors could measure the sea more carefully. Bakers could time their bread to the minute. Children could know exactly when school was over. All of it began with a daydreamy 17-year-old looking up in church when he was supposed to be looking down. If you ever travel to Pisa, you can still walk into that very cathedral. A bronze lamp hangs there even now. The very lamp Galileo first watched was replaced in 1587, not long after his discovery. But people still call the new lamp Galileo's lamp. It still sways quietly in the cool, candle-lit air. Tonight, somewhere in that old town, a soft breeze nudges a hanging lantern in a window. It swings once, then twice, then slower and slower until it almost stands still. Maybe a sleepy child glances up. Maybe she presses her fingers to her wrist and feels her own steady heart. Then she yawns and pulls the blanket up under her chin just like you. And so, Pisa also slowly, slowly fell asleep. Good night.